Hey everybody, welcome to the Rundown with Ramon. My production crew told me that this is going to be the best interview ever. The production crew of me, that's all it's here. Welcome to the Rundown with Ramon. Stefan Weitz, glad you're here. Appreciate it. And this is what we do on the Rundown with Ramon. Our audience watching us, listening to us, providing the best insights to help you start or grow your business, or maybe just live your best life. But Stefan, glad you're here. I know you as the co-founder of, the founder of HumanX, this big AI-focused event happening in San Francisco. But you do a lot more than that. So let's just start right now, Stefan. Introduce the audience overall, kind of who you are, what you do, what makes you tick, and then we'll dive into a few things about tech, about AI, about leadership, about startups. We'll just have a great conversation.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's a great Thursday morning for me then. Yeah, so Stefan Weitz, I mentioned, I grew up as a nerd, still I'm a nerd, wrote code since I was a little tiny kid, my first Apple IIe computer. But since then I've gone to Microsoft and built a bunch of products there that you may hate, so I apologize for those. And then went to private equity for many years and built a bunch of companies inside of PE shops, and then left that industry and really got back to my passion, which was figuring out how to connect people to technology. That's really what I did at Microsoft for so long. It's not just about the technology for technology's sake. There's places for that, really cool. But how do we actually make sure people can use the technology? And when I say people, I mean people, not just the elite, not just those that are really technically skilled. How do we get it out to the masses? Because that's where adoption happens. That's where change happens. And so HumanX was one thing behind that. I'm also a GP at a venture fund that I run called Silver Circle, and an angel investor in many companies, board member for a lot of companies. You know, I do too much. I gotta cut some stuff.
Well, you look like you're 19, so you did a lot.
Right, man. Good filters, I guess.
Your time at Microsoft, since you spent 80% of the time in your brief introduction on that, what did you do at Microsoft? What are some of the products that we love? Talk to us a little bit about that journey and what you learned from it.
Oh my gosh, it was incredible. I was there almost 19 years actually. So so many. Bing was the one that I'm really proud of. We launched Bing back in 2010, whatever it was, as a kind of competitor to Google, and that was so much fun and so much work. But it really kind of did give the world a different view into what search could be, and that was really early AI. I mean, we really did a lot with tools that we purchased or bought, or companies that we bought to create what we called a decision engine back then, which was in contrast to a search engine, which is what Google was. So really thinking through, how do people, again, use technology? I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of insane that prior to the last few years at scale, like search gave you a bunch of links and it was up to you to go click through them all and figure out what to do. And that was state of the art. It served a purpose, don't get me wrong. But when you think about what's actually possible, even back then when we had predictive analytics and we had airfare price predictors and review aggregators for consumer all the stuff we had back then, the idea was to say, how do we get you out of links and into a decision? How do we help you get information that as a human, you simply couldn't synthesize? There's too much of it. The data is just too much data. So that was a big innovation we had. So I love Bing. I think I wrote, or at least helped write the very first version of the SharePoint spec. So I wrote that one, but you don't, it's okay. It was called Tahoe back in the day. It was much cooler when we spec'd it. MSN did much more. So I did everything at Microsoft except for HR and finance, two things I should be nowhere near. But pretty much everything else I did there in some capacity. So I had a phenomenal time, but you learn so much. You learn, that place is like an MBA, out of the gate. It's incredible. So much fun.
Thank you for sharing that. I love it because being an end user of many of these tools, and I'm a fake geek as well, meaning as a publisher, blogging before blogging, just to co-share my expertise, blogging before blogger.com came out, but FTPing on Microsoft front page, probably a tool.
Oh my gosh, man, front page. Yeah. WYSIWYG, sort of. Just don't edit the code. It'll break forever. But yes, you got the idea.
I would say my website 3 times a day, FTP it up. And that's when I was blogging before all the fancy tools we have now. So you and we probably passed each other in the digital streets.
I'm sure we did somewhere. Yeah.
Curious, Stefan, when you think about what you were doing back then, and you think about today, anything that's changed for sure, but what's changed, what's been the same, and not technically, but as a leader, as a person, what can you think, Ramon? I'm doing the same things back then, even if I may live in another country, I travel around the world, or here's what's dramatically different. Anything that comes to mind on that aspect?
That's a really good question. Actually, I haven't been asked that before. What's the same?
Well, that's because the first time you're on the Rundown with Ramon, this is a very special show. I mean, you don't want to be on TEDx. You don't want to be on CNBC. You don't want to be with Oprah. You want to be right here, man. This is the place.
Oprah, I take Oprah. What's the same? What's the same to me? And it's funny, and this is it's changed. Even though it's the same, it's changed a little bit. It's really the thing I've always insisted on is hiring people that are smarter than I am. and it doesn't mean just raw IQ. It could be smart in many different ways. It could be street smart. It could be academically. It could be experience. Like all these things. So that to me has not changed at all. And I think that's it's a skill as a leader you have to learn because it's not intrinsic. Generally a lot of people are very nervous about bringing people into a group that are better than them in some way, whatever it might be, how you have to find them, because it makes them look like not a leader. Like, I don't know the answer to that question. And look, I was definitely guilty of that early on. I was young. I was 21 when I got there, I think, to Microsoft. And you had to kind of prove yourself because it was that environment. So I'm sure I had those tendencies, but pretty early on, I realized, holy smokes, if I actually surround myself with the A+ team and open myself up to saying my favorite 3 words in the history of the English language, which is, I don't know. Not to say, not to be lazy, not to be like, I don't know, but to say, I don't know, to inspire that curiosity. And diffuse situations or help other people say, oh, okay, well, if he says he doesn't know and he's the boss, it's okay to say, I don't know. Again, you have to follow it up with, so therefore, help me think through it. You can't just say, I don't know. It's cool, dog. Which sometimes that's what it feels like in this country these days. So that's important. That's the first thing. That's the same to me, which is like, how do you continue to hire not the best, but just people that you can learn from, people that have certain skills. That part to me has not changed in all these years of doing it. What has changed, I think, even in the last few years, is the productivity. So we've always talked about in engineering, the 10x engineers, guys and gals that can be 10x more productive than a traditional engineer. And those are the folks you want to hire because, as you can imagine, they're more productive. And they create engineering, maybe. Yeah, exactly. And so that metaphor, though, has now been applied, in my opinion, to really all knowledge workers. With the advent of these AI tools and the advent of the ability for anyone to create products, which 5 years ago was an impossibility if you weren't technical, to build websites are one thing, but to build like an actual functional complex product, if you weren't technical or had coding background skills, you weren't doing that. And so today what I'm seeing is that almost anyone can be a 10x employee, for lack of a better word, because there's so many tools they can use. And I love working. There's a person on our team named Ramon who runs speaker logistics for us at HumanX. And, that could be a role that's just a lot of manual work and, reaching out and coordinating timings and getting everyone to the right place. I mean, it could be a completely manual job, which I'm sure most companies it probably is. But she has literally built her entire job function to be heavily leveraging all these AI tools. So she probably is 10x more productive than the next speaker logistics person at another company anywhere in the world. And so I think that's the cool thing now, is you can see this 10xing of capabilities of people. And I think it gives them that confidence and that's I guess confidence is the right word to do more, try more. Sometimes it fails, sometimes it blows up, but as long as you're not impacting someone super negatively, mistakes can be made.
No, I love that. I remember, Stefan, I was working at Infusionsoft. You may know founders, you may know them, CRM company in Chandler, Arizona. Kathy Sachs. Rarely do I remember a name like that. But Stefan, same thing. I want to cry when I said it. I was younger than I am now, but still, I'm always learning. But she said same thing you said. She's this big VP, probably had shares in the company, all this, had her bag flying out. I knew her. She said, Ramon, I don't really know the answer. She could guide me, but she's like, I don't know, but I trust you. You'll figure it out. I melted. I was like, I can eat glass for you. I will figure it out.
That's true.
The attitude you're saying, Stefan, is that attitude?
I mean, the best book in this, I'm sure many of your viewers have read it, but it's a book called The Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. And we actually at Microsoft, before I left, I think I don't know if I can take credit for it or not, probably not, but I know I talked about it a lot internally before I left, and Satya, right thereafter began to really drill on it inside of Microsoft. So I don't remember if I sent it to him or not. I don't remember, but I'm gonna take credit. I'm gonna say I did, and he can correct me if
I'm gonna give you credit.
Wrong. Yeah, he can correct me wrong. But I think that was. I think he is an example of the growth mindset incarnate. He is an inherently curious person. So I'm sure he already read it. But yes, that's a book everyone should read because it resets the frame for any leader. And it actually, it's just remarkable how much less stress you'll have because you don't have to pretend to know everything. You don't have to pretend to be the expert. Because guess what? You're not. You can't be. You asked me earlier, did I see this WhatsApp group that Barry on our team has put together? I'm like, I haven't. I don't know what that is, but I trust Barry implicitly. It's going to be kick ass, and it probably is. And
It is.
yeah, I probably wouldn't know. I wouldn't probably even have thought of that idea necessarily because it's not what I do every single day. So why should I put the burden on myself? Why should I stress myself out with that thinking of I have to know everything. I have to be the best at everything. No one's the best at everything. You got to pick your lane and then hire the best around you to make it sing.
I love that. I want to definitely save us time to get to HumanX. Before I do that, maybe we can dive into just a few other things, taking advantage of your time, or I'll give you a compressed time, and then Barry will say, Ramon, since you went under the radar, we'll let you talk to Stefan again. Let's talk a little bit about technology, and it's such a broad question. But again, you're the perfect person to do this because you've been steeped in technology. Fearful of AI, not fearful of AI? Oxymoron question, I know, talking to the guy who's building HumanX, but fearful of AI, not fearful of AI. Technology is going too fast. Is it just right? Just give me a riff on where Stefan sees technology today. And I know it's a broad question intentionally. What is your views of how we should use it, how we should not use it? Talk to me about what you're seeing just 2026 with the headlines and people are.
That is a really tough one because it is so broad. You're seeing Meta today in court. With California alleging that they caused harm to young people through their technology. Then you see, on the other hand, technologies figuring out potentially how we can do fusion more effectively. Okay. So technology is just a tool like anything else, like a knife, like a paintbrush, like anything else, and like a typewriter, like a word processor. And so to me, the doomers and the acolytes of AI and technology in general both get it kind of wrong, And I think what we try to do HumanX really is to present the more realistic and really, that's not the right word, but we try to present balance, because these things can be misused. I mean, you can create chemical weapons with certain unchecked models at this point. Right. That's a problem. They can also empower somebody whose English isn't their first language to write incredible prose and communicate in different ways that they couldn't before. And so you have, and that's just one example. You see this ability for technology, and this is where I can become the utopian, and I always have been since a little kid. I do believe it is the great equalizer, and I think that's what's so cool about it. Now, not everyone has access to it. Not everyone can get access to GPT. You have to go to places in India. Who was that guy? He won the TED Prize so many years ago. Oh, my wife would kill me. I can't remember his name now. But he basically put a computer in these small Indian villages that had no, very little anything. Put a computer in the center of town, hooked it up. I don't know what kind of internet they had back then, but and just let the kids start using it. And of course, as you imagine, kids are like sponges and curious, and it's called. Is it called Computer on the Wall? Or, I'm totally butchering this whole thing.
We'll look it up.
It's incredible. He passed away, but he was an absolute wonderful human being. But that was an example of where you see, people that believe that intrinsically some people don't have aren't as skilled as they are. It's BS. You look at even things like Africa, certain parts of Africa, they were so far ahead of North America and the Western world on mobile payments, for example. And why? Because the networks there weren't smartphones. They didn't have access to these things. Everyone had cheap Nokia 8800s, and they had to figure out a way with M-Pesa to actually enable transactions. We didn't have that for years. Still don't have that in the U.S. We kind of do now, but it's been years and years and years. And down there, it's used for everything, And so, I love seeing how people take technology, and especially when they have constraints, like in Africa, no mobile networks, and India didn't have money for systems. And what an empowering and in many cases leading light that gives the rest of us. And so that's what it's not good or bad. It's a tool.
I love it.
But there's a lot that can go wrong as well.
No, but thank you. I appreciate that. And let's move to HumanX. What do we, I know we can read it from the website, but why did you create it? But the main question I'm asking is, what can we expect it? Why should we come? What's there? Why HumanX? Riff on that. HumanX. I'm excited to go to the first time being there. But the website looks good. Your team is doing a great job. The speakers look amazing. The best of the best.
Are on fire. Yeah.
Your mouth. Talk about HumanX.
yeah, man, oh man, it's a labor of love. And I'll be brief on the setup. But kind of long story short, as you know, I'm a nerd. I've been doing AI since I was a little kid, even crappy versions of rule-based AI. And I kind of had given up on it, honestly. Yeah, I've been at Microsoft for a long time, left there, kind of saw what we had done. Incredible work, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't Knight Rider. It wasn't Kit. It wasn't C3PO. These things weren't there. They were kind of tools. They weren't really things like that you could interact with. And then we saw Transformers come out, which was exciting because it was an attention-based product, which we hadn't thought of yet. And then you saw, of course, GPT came out. And to me, when GPT came out, particularly in 2.0, I think it was 2 is where I really took notice. I thought, okay, this isn't AI. This is a stochastic parrot, as they say, and we want to belittle these things, LLMs in general. But it was a new way for human-computer interaction, which was really a big deal to me because that's what was missing. Like you had to be technical to talk to a computer in many cases. How do you make it more human friendly? So I got really excited, and so I started talking to all my buddies who are more successful than I am, and now we're in big Fortune 500 companies. And I said, "Hey, how are you using this new AI tool?" This is a couple of years ago, and most of them, even though they're my friends, they totally lied to me. Like, we have a great plan. Like, no, you don't. There's no chance you do. Some guys would be honest and say, we're still figuring it out. And some people were like, I have no idea what to do with this. So I said, as a nerd and as an investor in a lot of this stuff as well, made me really nervous that we were going to underdeliver on the promise of what AI can be. If you look at other technologies that were going to revolutionize the planet, things like 3D printing 15 years ago, which definitely has incredible use cases, or things like blockchain, which again has incredible use cases. But these were things that were going to revolutionize how we lived, worked, played, ate, drank, the whole thing. And they really didn't. And so my concern was, unless we could actually help companies who are the way that most consumers and users will experience these technologies, unless we can help them make the right choices around how to deploy it and use it, we're going to end up with potentially the situation where we underdeliver on the promise of AI, or make huge messes, which we've already seen a few of those come out. So that was the idea. So HumanX was saying, how do we get the enterprises and corporations, the innovators, the scale-ups, the startups, the investors, the policymakers, all in the same place, and help inspire people from big talks on stage, but also get them really practical guidance to how they can deploy these things and use these things and what to deploy and when to deploy, all those questions that are super hard for people who aren't technically native or product native. That was the real reason. We wanted to build this ecosystem in this community that allowed these conversations and this confidence in AI to proliferate. And that was the point behind it.
I love it. Until we get there, it looks like to me there's this gathering, those who are the people like yourself, even though you said all my friends who are more than me. You're in that. I'm looking at you. You're.
Oh, trust me, man. There's always a third door somewhere.
That is true. But what do we expect to find there? It seems like there's the journalists and the thought leaders who talk about this. Maybe they're not the entrepreneurs, but they're the observers. You have those from companies, this microphone company, whoever it was, the companies that use it. You have then the leaders of it, the Googles and others. You have those three there. Those three buckets, it seems like, are there. And media influencers like myself. Talk more about what we find there and what we should, how we should navigate through that 3-4 day event.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great question. So we should have about 6,000 folks there, and it breaks down to, as you said, there's journalists, there's policy people, there are decision makers from the enterprises all across the kind of the global 2,000 enterprises who are there. So these are people who are like line area managers, or GMs and VPs. So they run the customer service function, the marketing function, the finance function at companies. So they're ones who are saying right now, how do I do something with this technology? So a lot of those folks are there. A lot of startups are there. So think of like early stage to mid stage startups. They have their own booth. They have their own areas or cool things they can do. A lot of investors are there because they're looking for the next cool thing. And then of course, a lot of the AI native companies are there. The ones that are building these kind of large scale tools that enterprises can use. So you're absolutely right. It's a combination of all. That's why it's an ecosystem. Because it takes, if any one of those functions doesn't work well, if there's no enterprises buying, then no investor is going to fund the startup and the whole thing collapses. And so you can everyone has to play their part. So that's
and you need bloggers to talk about it. Come on now, you got to give.
And the media, of course, the media. Media. It's funny, when we first started this conference, I was not. I've been doing media a long time, and it's incredible. But I wasn't thinking that was a big part of what we were trying to do. And my team was like, "Oh, Stefan, you're so cute, but you're missing something." And so I'm back and forth and hire Barry and other folks on the team. And they're right, because you do need this to spread far and wide for people to actually hear. Not everyone can afford to go. Not everyone has the time to go. Not everyone wants to go. So that's having the media there to make sure we can again proliferate these messages is important. And then what else can you find at the event? It's not just a trade show. That's the thing. Like, I'm not a conference guy. I'm a tech nerd. My partner is an amazing conference person. But he's always created more of a festival atmosphere, So we've got music, and we've got dog parks, and we've got, coloring board. Like, it's just crazy. So it's a combination of like trade show stuff on the floor. You've got incredible speakers, no pay to play. So no one's on stage pitching their product. In fact, that's why we have journalists doing the moderation, so they can't get up there and pitch their product. That's the whole point. And then we have all these activations that allow the community to come together. So all the CMOs have their own activation they get to go to and sit and talk about challenges. All the CTOs have the same thing. So really is trying to create these opportunities for collision and for learning. So that's what you're experiencing. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and we have so many fun surprises coming up.
If I don't have fun, Barry, I know you're hearing Barry. Barry's a media guy. I'm gonna DM him and say, Barry, I know it's gonna be amazing. Last question, Stefan. It's totally separate, but thank you, Stefan, again, co-founder of HumanX. Investor in tech and avowed geek and more. Thank you for being here at the Rundown with Ramon. But I was just curious, can you talk about productivity? It just came on my mind. You're a person who lives globally, making some broad guesses, lives globally, distributed team, doing a lot of different things across a lot of different time zones, probably gets 4,000 emails a day. Can you just riff again on either morning habits, that's one morning habit, or productivity? Just how do you lead the team? How do you ground yourself? Again, you're getting a habit. I ask a lot of questions in one breath, but you can handle it well. Just riff on that. Productivity.
Yeah. Boy, I wish I were more productive, honestly. I unfortunately have this crazy, my wife always says it's like childlike curiosity. So things can really get me down a rabbit hole if I think of something I want to go do. But certainly, I have all my AI tools that I use on a daily basis, and so those things they kind of keep me focused and guided, which is important. But that's my morning routines. I don't have a lot. I get up really, really early, like 4:30 or 5 generally, and I come down and it's a global team. So I come and make sure things haven't blown up overnight, as I've slept for a few hours. I always try to at least get to the gym in the morning. You can tell, obviously, but just kidding, you can't. But I try to, because that's so critical for your mental bandwidth to be able to do things.
I was at the gym today, 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, they don't take it seriously. And I know it sucks, and you want to do it sometimes. You just got to do it. So that's important to me. But then I try to block out big chunks of my day where I don't do email and I don't do Slack. Because Slack to me is, I get it. It's also the devil. It's the most interruptive thing I think we've had in the last 15 years. I'm making great progress on doing things you can do. I guess I know I can control it, but to me, it's still just this interrupt-driven mindset. So trying to put those things away as much as I can, and that the team knows, hey, I will always respond by the end of the day to something. If you need something right away, text me or something else. But that's important. I think people have to carve out that time, that precious time when you can do the thinking. One of my guys down near where I live was a former CEO of LinkedIn, and Jeff would, same thing. He would literally carve out big blocks on his calendar where there was no time for email and meetings, and that's the only way he could think of new ideas. The only way he could think of how to be a better leader. The only way to think of how to inspire people to do better is if you have those 2-3 hour chunks of time. And it's a luxury. I get it, man. Trust me. I'm running a small business. I understand entrepreneurs who are starting up, they're like, 2 hours? You effing kidding? I've got, orders here. I've got customers here. I've got complaints here. I got payroll here. I understand it. But let me tell you, if you can devote those 2 hours or however long you can devote, if you can really create that time to focus, you will be more productive overall. Because you will think of things that you will not think of when you're constantly in that reaction mode versus being in flow state, which is again an old developer nerd term. But I would say that's probably my biggest hack.
No, I love it. Stefan, one more time, could you give us your full name, title, just one more time, best link,
sure.
Whatever you give before we close. Thank you so much.
So it's such a pleasure. I'm Stefan Weitz, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of HumanX. And I hope to see you all there April 6th through 9th, 2026 at Moscone Center in San Francisco and in Amsterdam later in the year in September at the Ride Center. 2 great events for those that want to understand the future of this crazy technology and how you can best use it.
Love it. Everybody, my name is Ramon Ray, founder of zoneofgenius.com. I'll be at HumanX covering it and more. And you can see more insights like this at zoneofgenius.com.